Let's talk about SD cards. I say go big or go home.
How would be up waiting for you if you had to leave?
I want to take a few moments and share my backup and storage solutions for on the go or at home. Now, this video is prompted by the fact that SanDisk has an awesome sale at B&H Photo today. You can get 64 gigabyte card for just 16 bucks. They also have 128 and 256. And as I said in the opening, go big or go home. I really like shooting on larger cards, and I'll tell you why and how I avoid those issues in a minute. But these are the fast and reliable cards from SanDisk. They're backward compatible in most older cameras, and they're fast enough for 4K video in all but the highest bitrate camera. So it is really a great price point right now. It is a one-day sale. There's a link right down below. Using that link helps support what we do here and costs you nothing extra. So I said go big or go home. Let me talk about how that works for me and why I think it should work for you as well. There is the old adage, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. You drop the basket, you drop your camera in the water, and boom, all of those photos that you've been shooting on for the last weeks and weeks and weeks, if you have a larger card, is suddenly gone. Not if you follow my advice. So here's how it goes. I'm out shooting on a trip or day trip, doesn't matter. I'm typically shooting on the Sony a7R II. It does have dual card slots, which helps unless you drop your camera in the river. I typically shoot on 128 card in each slot. When I'm done shooting for the day, I come back to home or the hotel room and I plug the camera into the computer. I've got a couple of reasons for that. One, I've actually noticed that the process of removing the SD card and shoving it into a card reader, even if you're careful, over time seems to shorten the lifespan of the card physically. The plastic starts to get stressed and break. Even if you're careful, over time I've noticed some SD cards start to split apart, physically falling apart. I've had more SD cards physically fall apart than I have had kind of internal errors where read and write issues happen. So these days, I leave it in there to avoid the stress. I also leave it in there because it means it's less likely that I'm going to go back out into the field the next day and forget to put an SD card back in. If the SD card's already in the camera, I'm certainly not going to be able to leave the hotel room without an SD card in my camera. It's happened to me in the past. I've ended up at some gorgeous location, bring the camera up to my eye, no SD card. Now with dual card slots, it's a little bit harder to do that these days. There's almost always at least one card slot full with an SD card in. But if you have a single card slot, it's quite possible to do. Don't feel bad. It happens. And leaving it in there means that it's less likely to happen. I also like it because this camera and many others on the market today, like we got the Fuji on the table, the Canon EOS RP in some cases will, charge over USB. So once it's finished downloading the pictures, I simply turn it off and suddenly it's starting to charge. It is a bit of a slower charge, but that's enough. If I am in a safe spot, desk set up in the hotel room, I can just leave it plugged in overnight and it will charge and the next morning it's ready to go. So it's kind of doing double duty. I really like that. So I've downloaded the pictures to the laptop. If it's a short trip, they'll get downloaded to the laptop and backed up to an external drive. I use Lightroom for my import system. It isn't the fastest out there, but it does some of the work for me that I really appreciate. One is it backs up the files on import. That is a checkbox that you just have to check. So automatically on import, I don't have to think about anything. That's what I like. Plug it in, hit that import button. If it's the same system every time, then that check mark is always there in the backup system. And also don't import suspected duplicates. We'll talk about why that's important in a second. And then, of course, it renames the files. It does other wonderful things. I've got whole videos all about this, especially up on the Photo Enthusiast Network site. I go out the next day and I shoot some more. I come home, come back to the hotel room, plug the same camera with the same cards in it, and you say, well, there's all of those pictures that you shot previously. Having don't import suspected duplicates checked simply means that Lightroom will say, oh, I see all of these pictures, but I also see that you've already imported them. I won't bring them in again. It's very, very simple. Now, the one catch to that is if you're like me and each night you like to take some time and say, get rid of the total junk that you shot that day. It happens. I know. Maybe I pushed the shutter button as I was putting the camera in the camera bag. Maybe I just took some really bad photos completely out of focus. Those are going to be deleted. But while I'm traveling, I don't actually delete them. I simply mark them for deletion. If you delete them, Lightroom is not that smart, and it will try to import them again. But if you mark them for deletion, Lightroom sees them in the catalog and says, hey, those pictures are already here. We won't import them. It works pretty good. On longer trips, I typically don't have enough room on this laptop to bring in all of the pictures and videos, so I'll bring along 2 external hard drives. This is just a Seagate 4 terabyte, and again, I'll put links to all of this down below. And this is, I think they don't make this anymore. This is just this little DJI 2 terabyte drive. I like it because it's got a little micro SD card slot. And one of these will be the primary drive where the master files go, and one will be the backup drive. So I have my photos in 3 locations constantly. Let's just say it's a longer trip. On a hard drive, on a backup hard drive, and on my camera with me when I'm heading out of the room. So I've got 3 locations for my photos. Now, some of you might say, why don't you back up online? The reality of traveling, even here in the US, is rarely is hotel internet good enough to back up a couple of hundred or maybe even 1,000 pictures overnight. Very, very rarely. So I just don't try. And when we travel internationally, the internet usually is extremely slow. So I rely all on local backups. What I started doing this year is something new. My 2019 catalog, my Lightroom 2019 catalog, in its entirety is here. And I hope to keep it small enough that it stays on this little 2 terabyte SSD over the course of this year. I picked this up for about $300. I think it was a little bit less than that on sale. Right now it's about $300, sometimes a little bit over. It's very fast. As you can see, it's tiny. And this is going to travel with me and be the location of my master file. So as I'm traveling, I'm adding them to my 2019 catalog. I'm also going to be backing them up, just like I said. So this is replacing one of these kind of spinning traditional hard drives. When I get home, this is going to get plugged into my desktop computer. This is the system I've been using. And it gets synced, cloned, the 2019 catalog from here to a very large external drive. That external drive is then backed up online through Backblaze, which I've been very, very happy. I've used Backblaze now for just over a year, and I've been very happy with the performance and ease of use. So at home, 3 points. It exists here. It exists on the external drive. It goes up online. While I'm traveling, 3 points, camera, and 2 external drives. That works pretty well for me, and I've been really happy with it. Another nice quick piece of this whole kind of puzzle is a little SD card wallet like this. I really like this Think Tank Pocket Rocket. Sounds a little funny when you say it out loud. And I simply, when I use an SD card, put it back in here upside down when it's full. So typically a 128 gigabyte card will get me through several days of shooting, maybe longer. It really depends a lot on the amount of video I'm shooting with these cameras as well, which is what I do when we travel on workshops. And then they'll flip in here upside down. Now, this isn't, waterproof, but what I really like about it is it's very gentle. The card's just gonna slot into these nice little comfy fabric spots, and it folds up very nice like that. It's not as robust or waterproof as those kind of hard-cased wallets, but I've actually found, again, the process of putting and getting your SD cards in and out of those to be a little cumbersome. Not only a little cumbersome, but actually kind of stress them out. And I've broken SD cards before. Maybe it wasn't the best one. Maybe you have a better one to recommend. Put a link down below to a waterproof SD card wallet that doesn't stress out your cards. Now I'm holding up this. This is the DJI Boss. I think that's what it's called. This is something that I get asked about often. Hey, I want to travel and back up my photos without a computer. I want to travel light. I certainly understand that. This MacBook with power cable and all that stuff, it's like 5 pounds. That's a significant amount when you're looking at kind of total weight of the camera bag I'm carrying around. These certainly save a good bit of weight. I don't love them though. This is the DJI Boss. I've also reviewed the Western Digital My Passport Wireless and the Narbox. The Narbox, never mind. I know they're coming out with a version 2. I hope it's better. The Western Digital My Passport Wireless thing is decent. It's certainly not bad. They're both very similar. It's a hard drive with an integrated power supply and an SD card slot. Stick the SD card in there, it copies your pictures over. You have very limited control over that, and I haven't been able to figure out how to make either of them work so that it doesn't end up with duplicates using my system of using the same card every day, and it's not smart enough to not import duplicates. So I need to research that more, but for now, I always bring my computer anyway because I keep in touch with a lot of people. I edit video. So there's a lot of reasons for me to still bring my computer along, but hopefully at some point in the future, I'll be able to leave it behind. I think that's all I wanted to share. If you want to take advantage of this SD card sale, there's a link for that right down below. And as I said, your use of those links greatly helps out what we do here at Photorec.tv. And don't forget to share this with friends and family and give it a quick thumbs up. I'd love to hear your backup strategy for keeping your photos and videos safe either on the go or at home. What do you think about shooting on the larger cards? I like it. It works well for me. Let me hear your opinions. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye. Before you go, just a reminder, it's fantastic if you hit that thumbs up button and the subscribe button along with a little bell notification so that you're notified of future videos. Here's some footage from a recent workshop we ran in Yellowstone National Park. You can learn more about traveling with me at photorec.tv/travel.